All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. This is Rob here at Smirking Gun Reviews, back to talk more of the latest chapter that I watched of the Underground Railroad, the Amazon Prime original series by acclaimed director Barry Jenkins. And today it is Tennessee Exodus that we're going to be talking about. And it just... I gotta laugh. I gotta give that uncomfortable laugh because it's just... I don't remember a show in... since maybe the first couple of seasons of The Handmaid's Tale that's had me as at such a loss at times and difficulty in trying to think of what to say. I take my notes and try to come up with, because it's not really, you can't really just review this. Like, you could. I'm not going to sit here and talk about just about, like, I don't know, the way regular critics review things. I'm not a critic. I'm just a reviewer. I'm a person who talks about how I feel about these things. I could definitely say that, like, if you want to go into the cinematography of this one was really excellently filmed because of what had to have gone on, like, what they would have had to do to get the shots that they wanted in this, to how to make it look like they wanted. How to make Tennessee look bombed out. The woods of Tennessee just bombed out. Now they probably didn't. They probably just used the same, like, not that big a patch of area. They probably just used one and made it look, like they're in different spots. We'll just keep reusing it, but it was done really well. And I like to think of this episode now as the breaking of Cora episode. But also not just of Cora, really, because in breaking Cora, I feel like Ridgway kind of is even breaking himself even further than he really already is, because Ridgway's a broken character. Jasper is a broken character. This show is filled with just broken people, and Ridgway can't, like, he has to break her, but in this episode, he really starts to crack and go mad. And it made me, like, the Tennessee woods that are literally on fire, right? It's just like, it's just everything is just aflame. Not raging inferno, but just everything's been burned out and still the fire lingers. And it made me think kind of like this episode was like being in the desert. And then that made me think, like, in the biblical stories of the Israelites. I'm about to pull out, like, what I can remember from when I was young, is the Israelites out in the wilderness, for 40 years after they were, in the story, okay? Because I'm gonna say in the story, because I don't really believe. I don't know what happened. It was just what I was told. These are the things I was told. But it makes me think of the story I was told of them after Moses got them out of Egypt. And how they just were out there forever. Just kind of wandering around. And you would think that, people would start just cracking out there for 40 years. Wandering around in circles for 40 fucking years. I mean, that's just insanity, right? But it made me think of that kind of metaphor of, like, walking in the wilderness. And how they all start to slowly go mad. The only one who seems unaffected is Homer. Who, it seems like he just takes everything in stride. We get his, like, origin and how Ridgway got a hold of him as well in this episode. But they also mention that, they try to talk about how this was where the Trail of Tears was with the Cherokee, and how this land is now cursed for what they did. The Trail of Tears and Death. And if you don't know about that, well, it's another great shame that's on this country. Another thing about this is, after watching last episode, now when I look at Ridgway, I can't help but just see the younger version of himself now. And how I've talked about this, about how I see Joel Edgerton. Now I don't see Joel Edgerton. I see the character. it took that episode for me to stop seeing him as the actor and not kind of having that bias of, why is Joel Edgerton being such a dick? But now I see the character, not the actor, and that's really cool. I think that's what you want your audience to feel like. And I find him now just absolutely despicable. And while there could be a case to say that, you know, he became this way because of his insecurities, his inability to communicate with his father, his inability to see the Great Spirit, and wanting so much to feel the things that his father felt, and not feeling them, and then trying to, you know, figure out his own life, and becoming a monster. But fuck all that. I don't care. You have to someday. We all have to, like, stand by our choices. We have to be accountable for our choices. All of us. And so Ridgway, he can go fuck himself. Really, I don't care. Like, he's an awful, awful human being who is irredeemable to me. He's an irredeemable character. Even if he were somehow to just suddenly let her go, he's an awful, awful human being, and he keeps showing it here in this episode. More and more. But he does tell the story about Homer, which is an interesting story. He bought him for $5 from a butcher who apparently owed him a debt, and that he himself won't own slaves. Yet his job is slave hunter because he doesn't feel that runaway slaves have earned the right to be free, that they owe some kind of debt that free slaves, you know, have somehow earned in his eyes. And I have such a hard time with that because it's just fucked. It's just a fucked up way to be. You know, the Homer keeps following him around, and he emancipated him, and then Homer just stuck around. And when but he cuffs himself he cuffs himself at night because it's the only way he can sleep. Thought that was an interesting part of the story there. When they showed the people, like, walking out of Tennessee, right? They're leaving or going wherever the fuck they're going. Who cares? You know, they were talking about how, oh, this was started by a lightning strike, when it wasn't. You know, it was started because they tried to clear the forest for themselves so that they could make farmland and just cities and towns and other, you know, stuff. And it made me think about how America got to be America, the America we know, and how it is all just one long horrifying story of we came here and we took everything and we destroyed everything and we burned down all the old to make room for us. And sometimes along the way we destroyed things that ended up hurting us. Like if you think about, like, the Dust Bowl and stuff, how everybody just charged on out there, head for, you know, just without thinking, and just they stirred up so much land that they fucked themselves. And then they sit there and they cry and they bitch and they moan, and we go, oh, the poor people, oh, the humanity of the Dust Bowl, oh, whoa, whoa. And it's like, you did it to yourselves. We do this to ourselves. At least they did. But we do this still. We fuck ourselves. And then we cry and we bitch about it. The entire planet is going to hell, and we still have people that just cry and bitch and moan and blame everything else but the thing that we've actually done. Instead of actually really just saying as a country, as a world, we have to stop doing this now, or we won't have a planet We just complain and we cry about it and we throw fucking telethons and we donate money to this and we try to, we complain about it. But what do we really do? And where did it really get us? Right? We're at the top of the food chain right now, right? The big old white people at the top of the food chain. And we had to destroy every other person and even the people that were here, we had to enslave them or kill them to make room for our manifest destiny that is now leading to what? And then it makes me think about the real fears that people have now, right? The real fears, right? Because everything comes to an end. Everything. And Rome fell, everything falls. And I feel like the real fear that white people won't say is the fear that they are going to lose what they destroyed everything for. That the minorities of in this country are going to just sneak in and take it all from them. And so they do everything that they possibly can to stave that off for as long as they can. I don't think it'll last. I don't think it's sustainable in the end, because there will be, in my opinion, something that changes that leads to major change in this country. It might not happen in my lifetime, but this is what it all, like watching this episode made me think of. Anyway. So let's move on to, again, more of Ridgway, right? So he's this great slave hunter, and he talks about how he really was lucky to find Cora. That it just kind of happened. And so she takes this opening and says, well, hey, you didn't really, in a roundabout way, she says that, you didn't find my mom, though. Which was a big mistake for her. Because just by bringing it up, instead of saying anything, he doesn't say it. He just tells her the story of Lovey. And how, where she's from, what's waiting for her. There are 3 gallows, and one of them's already been used, right? And it's Lovey was hung there. The girl that was captured when they were trying to escape. And they hung her, and they drove a spike through her. And she hung there for days, still alive. And he tells her that story just to let her know that that's what's waiting for you. Just because she brought up the fact that you didn't catch my mom. You don't know where she is. This is what we're dealing with here. And then he finds the seeds. So now she's captured. She's with this guy named Jasper who's trying to... He's broken and he will not try to run, and he's just singing. He's basically waiting for death. He's starving himself. He's not giving them anything else of him. There's no point. He tells her, why are you stuffing yourself? You're fattening yourself up for slaughter. In so many words. And so he's just not gonna give them anything else, right? But Ridgway finds the seeds, another thing, the thing that, she ran away with, her, what do you call that? Basically what she would be owed, like, I don't even know. We don't even have those anymore. What do they call it? When your parents die and they leave you something. What the hell is that even? Inheritance. Like, and he talks about how the okra is always there and that it's tough. And I think he meant that to kind of be kind of a correlation to cora. But it's just another way to break her now that he has those. And we get to his, this is where you start to, I think, see Ridgway really crack, is Bozeman, his traveling companion, who's during this period of time of traveling has, already told her, Cora, how he's going to rape her. And when he tries, when and only when Ridgway goes off after a horse, he immediately sees that opening to, well, I've got a couple of minutes here, to rape her before he gets back. Now he doesn't get a chance to, but he unlocks her feet so that later when she runs and gets caught and comes back, and Bozeman kind of gets, angry with Homer. Homer uses that opportunity to tell him, and I wrote this whole line down because it's a sentence that no young man would ever say. It is so grown up, and the way he says it is, it was he who undid her chains today with an eye towards indecency, sir. What a line. So he gets that man in trouble, right? But he's not going to do really anything about it. But Bozeman gets offended anyway and starts going at Ridgway about not seeing the Great Spirit, and that is what makes Ridgway snap. That is what Ridgway can't handle. He cannot handle being reminded of his failures. Whether it was not catching Cora's mother or not being able to see the Great Spirit, he cannot face his own failures and guilt and regret, and so whenever he is faced with it, he lashes out. What's surprising, though, is he just straight up kills Bozeman. He just straight up blows him away. And, people, you can say, oh, well, good, Bozeman's dead, he's a rapist. And that's right. But it's it's kind of surprising, him taking it out on another white man like that. Going that far anyway. Let's see. So she ends up in the back with Jasper, and he's just been singing this whole time, and she starts kind of talking to herself, looking up and talking to everyone that has fallen around her, contemplating the losses that of all the other people that she left with or has come in contact with, and how they've all met their end, whether it's Lovey or Caesar or soon to be Jasper, or the girl, I forget her name, from episode 3. Wow. Book 2. Oh man, how many? Okay, North Carolina. Trying to find the characters. Grace. The Grace character. And she's just really putting it all out there. I'm so sorry that, y'all up there looking down at me and thinking about this, and hearing that, Jasper finally starts talking. And another thing I thought this was interesting is just the sadness of this, that how many actual conversations like this happen, the conversations between slaves, that what they talk about. And it just really made me feel and sad that that where are you from, what do you do, where's your family. And I just was filled with this great sadness over it all, thinking about all the conversations like this that happened all over the country to people like this that have been stripped of everything, and this is all they have left to talk about to fill the time before they're brought back or whatever. And it just feels very like impending doom. You know, you just want to know some news, hear something other than you're crying yourself to sleep, and you know, I can't even imagine trying to sleep in these situations, you know, or walk. You know, they're marching her, you know, they were earlier marching her around, you know. It's just, we're so lucky to live in the time that we live in. And when you look back at this and you just, some people could say, oh God, I really wish I lived back then. But, you know, sure, maybe like people would really enjoy just, you know, taking a shit in the woods, basically. You know, like, just, that's, you want to live like that, great. But we have it so good. And we're forgetting all, like they say, you know, if you're doomed, if you repeat history, you're doomed to repeat it. And we're forgetting this stuff. Everything happens so fast now, and we keep forgetting to look back, and we keep making the same mistakes. And I look at this and I see this and I go, can you imagine if we ever ended up back living like that? Because it could happen. And I don't mean to be like, you know, ooh about it, but it could happen. Again, maybe not in my lifetime, but given the right circumstances, we could be back in the fucking Stone Age, and it would cause most people to just give up and die. And so you look at what these people went through, and it just filled me with this great sadness that what an awful time period. We romanticize like the West and things like that, but it was terrible. It was horrible. It was awful. It was filled with everything. Everything wanted to kill you. That movie, 100 Ways to Die in the West, was horrible, but he got that part right. Let's see. We find out that this is Ridgway's home state. So I am assuming, because this feels like, why aren't they just going to Georgia, right? Why are they going through Tennessee anyway? So is this his, like, trek home? Is this his, like, well, I'm up this far, I need to go, you know, see my father and show my father who I am and who I've become? You know, the great slave hunter. Will this impress him? Is this what the point of it is? But Jasper tells him, right, he's like, he's going to look at you and he's going to see what you've done. Now, Jasper can't know. I mean, he hears, right? Maybe he's heard things on the trail that would lead him to be able to, you know, come to this conclusion. I think it's supposed to be kind of vague how he has come by this knowledge, or even if he really even knows what he's talking about. Or it could be a coincidence that just fits, you know, something that he says that just happens to fit Ridgway's life. But yes, I mean, because they flash to his father, right? And it's like, he's going to see what you've done. He keeps saying it over and over and over and over and over and over. And this is where I really feel like Ridgway, like when he gives Homer the keys, but he starts snapping about Cora being ungrateful, he's shoving the food in her face, and he takes the shirt off of Jasper when she won't eat, when they won't listen to him. This man who doesn't want to own slaves but feels somehow reason compelled to torture and bring back slaves to their old masters. It's such a... But the way he's talking to himself and lighting the matches, trying to see the Great Spirit, and, you know, again, Cora runs, and Jasper dies of starvation, which has got to be just a horrifying way to die. And exposure. God knows what else he has. But Ridgway pulls her out of the water and tells her that dying is not easy. You don't get to take the easy way out. And again, it's just the punishment that he feels he needs to inflict on people, on them, on what he calls it. And then chains her to Jasper because he says if she's ready to die, let's just chain her to the dead man. And mocking her in the night as she cries out in horror to please let her go, that she will never run again. And this finally broken. All of this that he's done is broken her now, finally. Almost like he was breaking in a horse. He just had to really run her. Like, when she runs at first and he's like, "Atta girl." Like, get it out of your system. Let's get, and then by right now he's just literally gotten her to where he wants her. And does this make him feel like a big man? I don't know. Like, it's horrifying, but I don't even know what to say anymore about it, because it was such a bleak episode, such that the conversation we're having was pretty bleak. And that's because that's what it made me feel. And I don't know, like, I'm not saying that any of these episodes are supposed to be suddenly, yeah, like, the sun's gonna open up and we're gonna have a fucking musical and shit. No, it's not that. But I had a particularly long day today, and sitting down and watching an hour of this bleakness really brought out the dark. So I apologize for that darkness getting out there. But hey, like I said, it's it's an environmental thing. It's how it's what's bringing up those feels. It's bringing up the topics that I feel like I need to talk about in the moment. So anyway, that's we're at chapter 5. We'll be back talking about chapter 6 probably tomorrow. I feel like we're only halfway. I feel like I've been watching this for a month, and it's only been about a week. But if you liked this review, please hit the like button, comment, share, subscribe, hit the bell for all notifications. Again, yeah, we're trying to get to that 2,000 subscribers this year. We're only like 160 away. So if you guys wouldn't mind hitting that subscribe button, that would be awesome of you. Because, hit the bell for all notifications, because we're going to be covering a lot of difficult stuff. I have comic books around me. I am surrounded by pop culture stuff that... These are the things that make me feel good, that make me feel happy to look at and have in my life. But we're gonna be talking more about heavier topics and heavier shows on this channel, like we used to. We kind of got into comic stuff for quite a while, and we're still gonna be doing like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and things like that, and Mandalorian and all that, blah blah blah. But We need to lighten the mood sometimes, but for the most part, we're going to be talking about stuff like this when we can find it. So if you guys also out there know of anything that maybe we should be covering that's topical, let me know in the comment section, and maybe we'll talk about that at some point. Otherwise, this is Robert Sprinkle Gun Review saying, of course, be good to each other out there, and have a great night, and we will see you on the next video.